Item number 2 is review discussion of District of Innovation, DOI, for the 2018-2019 school year.
Yes, ma'am. We wanted to bring this or have an initial discussion today. In that packet there, you have this piece of paper right here that discusses 4 areas in particular that we would like to consider and look into for future thoughts for the DOI, being a DOI school district for next year. Those are the 4 areas that we are looking at. If you would like to, we can talk about them right now if you have questions. If not, we plan to follow the steps, which is on the second page here, which is this is the initial discussion. At the board meeting, at the regular board meeting, we would like to present the school board with a resolution that you all would have to present. And it goes through the steps there. It's not the resolution saying that we're adopting it. It's just saying that we're going to look into it. And then we'd have to have a public hearing. You'd form a committee, and they would vote and so on and so forth, going down the flow chart that's provided in your packet. But all we're asking for is we just want to talk about the becoming a district of innovation. Most of the school districts are approximately 1,150, 1,170 across the state. About 800 of them have adopted the DOI designation. Majority of them adopted it mainly because of the calendar consideration, not having to start the fourth Monday in August. That's the main one that most of them look at. But we can go more in depth into that right now, or we could wait until the board meeting, or we could wait until the committee's formed. But those are the areas that we have discussed as a SLT that we would like to look into.
Should we wait?
That's fine.
Should we? Okay.
Yeah, but I just want to discuss it, and we'll present the resolution at the board meeting.
Okay.
But these are the areas.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I recommend we approve it for now, and then we can discuss it at a later date.
Okay.
Agenda.
Agenda item. Agenda item number 3, review discussion of JELLO or Shallow online program for 2018-2019 school year. Zello?
Yes, ma'am. This is Mr. Guerra.
Yes.
He's right here.
Right.
But at the last board meeting, I know we discussed a program that we're going to be using for our career cruising for K through 12 kids, for more specifically for our K department. Last year we had an Aviance. We had 3 presentations in the last couple of weeks. The committee came up, or they got together, had their presentations, and have decided upon Zello as their program that they want to use. Mr. Agueta would take it from here. I know they have some people from Zello there and give a quick demonstration just so you know what we're purchasing, or we would like to purchase with y'all's approval. It's going to take about a 5-minute presentation, right?
5 minutes.
Okay.
Good afternoon, board members. Again, Zello is the software we're looking at. The committee consists of Ms. Ortiz, Dr. Brena, Alex Salinas, the higher ed coordinator, Mr. Madrigal, Ms. Halomos, the counselor from the high school, and Ms. Flores, Libby Flores, and myself. Again, we got together, looked at all the different programs from Cooter, EdSite, and Zello, look at the complete package, who offered what, for what grade levels, and Zello was the one that offered everything. So what we're doing today is we're actually going to connect to her, and she's going to give you a quick rundown of the presentation. Anytime you want to ask questions, just hit your button and you can ask questions. So it's the first time we're ever doing something like this different. Again, I give props to KSPG with the technology that they're using. So Jackie, you want to go ahead and take it away?
Good evening. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Rolando, for graciously having me here tonight. As Rolando said, my name is Jacqueline Scudra. I'm the Senior Texas Education Consultant here at Zello, formerly Career Cruising. And I just want to reiterate that I'm here to answer all your questions tonight. So please interrupt me and let me know what those may be. For the last couple of weeks, I have been working with your committee, and what I want to do is start off by simply sharing with you exactly how we're going to be able to support San Benito CISD's college, career, and military readiness objectives. So what you're seeing in front of you is a comprehensive list of the key priorities that we have come up with. And I just want to run through them with you, and then we'll jump into the program so that you get a feel of what the program looks and feels like. First and foremost, you're really looking to implement something that is K through 12. First and foremost, we want to make sure that your elementary students have the exposure to the terminology, the pathways, and the career choices so that once they hit middle school, they really are in fact making the best choices for themselves. And of course, we want to create a consistent program that is used throughout your district for every single grade across the entire district. As I just mentioned, as part of that process, we want to make sure that when students are going into their high school years, they are in fact making the best decisions for themselves in terms of that program of study. And of course, that then leads into how do we track this? So including a full area where students can in fact make sure that they are on track to graduate with their core foundations diploma. And then of course, being able to also track programs of studies, making sure that they're graduating with multiple and that they are on track if they want to switch as well. A part of that, of course, is how do we help your district with post-secondary planning and processing. So for instance, being able to track and increase FAFSA applications. Providing access to parents is one of the other things that we spoke about, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Considering tracking, accountability, so integrating with National Student Clearinghouse so that we can help your district track not only enrollment, but persistence and of course, matriculation. One of the key priorities was to provide access to your high school graduates, which we do. And then how can we do this in a successful manner? So first and foremost, we have a full integration with Skyward. In fact, we have built-in functionality within Skyward. What we've spoken about is that your district will be fully implemented within a matter of a couple of weeks. Once that implementation occurs, once your students are up and running, then we make available to your district leads valuable reports and data. So just a couple of things I want to share with you tonight. Some of the data that you're going to be able to track: student engagement. So we've seen as high of an increase of 137% with districts who use our programs. Military intent, not only military intent, but military enrollment. So you can use Zello to do that. College intentions, as I've mentioned before, and then of course, local industry partnerships, reports that actually can help you strengthen those. Last couple of ones that were really key to the discussions that I've had with your committee is catering to the different populations within your district. So taking into consideration students where Spanish is their first language, students with special needs, and then of course, every single student in every single grade. Last, definitely not least, one of the key things that came up quite often was making sure that we can partner with a company who's going to provide the full support needed for successful rollout. And so one of the things that we offer you when you onboard with Zello is a dedicated onboarding manager and a dedicated success manager. These are two consultants. These are two Texas consultants who stay with you throughout the lifetime of your partnership, which you in fact have unlimited access to. So welcome to Zello. This is what your students see the moment they log in. It's technology that truly does reflect what they're using in their everyday lives. For the purpose of tonight, we're looking at a student who has already completed all 4 of the assessments which are offered within the program. Once students have gone through those assessments, then they're able to start to learn about what those assessments mean. They're able to see the careers that best match who they are. They're able to start documenting experiences, much in the way of a neat portfolio, and then they're also able to document their skills and interests, as well as military, as you'll see down here. Our careers allow students to get a good idea of high level in terms of wages and a brief description, and for those students who are looking to learn more, they can start to dig a lot deeper. Everything is rewritten by our content team to be engaging so that students can actually understand what this career means to them. Everything defaults to Texas, and then students can see a clear path of the related majors for this particular career, and then all of the schools within Texas that offer those majors. Again, defaulting to Texas, but then the ability to look at other states as well. For students who want to take a more freestyle approach to looking at their options, they're able to explore schools in the Explore options, and they're able to filter this by things that are meaningful to them, whether that be test scores, the size of the school, the length of the program. They're then able to save schools and careers into their saved options. They're able to look at those schools in a consistent manner the way they're looking at careers. Again, taking information straight from colleges, but then rewriting it so that you can begin those college conversations in the middle school ages. In terms of parent involvement, parents see what their students are doing on Zello with a unique link that becomes shared for them. Parents are able to, right beside their child, look at the application requirements, look at the financial breakdowns and the important dates. And then each one of our schools has an integrated campus map that they can drop themselves right onto. So in terms of parent involvement, students are able to go on virtual tours right alongside their parents at the dinner table. Last but not least, in the goals and plans area, this is where students are going to be able to start creating their post-high school plans. And then of course, managing where they are on track to achieve that. Within our course planner, we easily show students exactly the courses that they need to graduate with their Core Foundations diploma. They're able to see descriptions of the classes, prerequisites, and what is needed. And one thing I do want to point out is as students are doing this, everything in real time is available to the educators. So counselors can easily see, even prior to meeting with the student, if the student is on track. In terms of the program of study, students can see which program of study is assigned to them, but then they're also able to see all of the coherent sequence and programs of studies offered at the district, so that as students are taking classes, perhaps for electives, they are being automatically tracked towards all the programs of studies in the instance, which we all know is quite often, that they want to switch or add on. As I said, everything is being captured in real time on the educator side. And so the care that we put into creating a student-centric and engaging program on the student side, we put that same care onto the educator side. Our program, every single step of the way, has been tested with real students and real educators all over North America. And so just a couple of things that I want to point out. Each one of your educators gets access. They get different levels of access. And so depending on the access that you have will depend on what you can see. For the purposes of tonight, just two things that I want to show you. So first and foremost, when we think about individual advising, this is a student that we were just looking at. And so as a counselor, as an educator, as a teacher, I am able to see everything that the student has saved, all their intentions. I can look at where they are in terms of being on track to graduate as well. And I apologize, this is not loading. Oh, there we go. That's the one-on-one. In terms of those reports for your entire district, everything gets consolidated. However, you can, within your one login, drop down to other institutions as well. I also want to point out that the program for both the educators and students, your language of choice can be changed to Spanish or English with a click of the button. And then when we're looking at reports, there are a number of robust, easy to access, easy to understand reports. So students who, going back to that military example, have said that their intent is to pursue military, we can see a full report on that. We're able to export reports into Excel or CSV and then filter. This is key. If you have groups of students, perhaps if you're looking at students in a particular endorsement, particular grade, special ed students, every single one of our reports can be filtered based on those specific group of students. And then we have an entire feature of lessons correlated to the TEKS Chapter 127 standards. And you can, as a district, create custom lessons. And this is how you'll be able to customize exactly what you're tracking, for instance, FAFSA applications. I know, again, one of the things is how can we make sure that we have a successful rollout with your district? So what you're looking at right now is just a document that I've shared with your district on things that you can expect when you do come on with Zello. But like I said, I want to reiterate, we have integrated technology right within Skyward, functionality right within Skyward. You will have 2 consultants at your side throughout the entire partnership with Zello. And then your educators have access to 24-hour help within the program itself as well. Are there any questions?
I do. Is this like creating their own profile? Are you out there behind the deals? Is this creating a profile of themselves throughout, starting from 8 to 12? And is there changes that can be made? Is that?
So what we're looking to roll out is essentially 2 programs. We have one program that is K through 5, that's broken out into 2 subsections, K through 2 and then 3 to 5. And then what you've just seen today is our 6 through 12 program. And so yes, students are creating portfolios. They have their individual logins that they log into year after year, and that follows them year after year. So it follows them from middle school into high school as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
We're going to
Again-
cut her off.
Again, this software, we use it in 8th grade. When they do their interest inventory, it's going to give them an idea of what they're good at, what they like. From there, they pick a pathway, one of the 15 clusters that we have. Based on those clusters, that's how the classes are assigned to the K courses. And now, you asked the question, can they change? They could change at any given time. That interest inventory can be given to them again at 9th grade. They see what they like and what they don't like.
And
Who goes to college and they're not sure what they want, so therefore, this helps them to determine whether they'll be able to follow certain.
Yes.
So
So in elementary, we start using terminology, dual enrollment. We start using credits. We start using things that are going to come up, TSI testing. So they start to understand those type of vocabulary by the time they get to 8th grade. So it's not new to them. Parents can log in at any given time, start to see what they like, their interests. Again, you show them a firefighter, hey, I'm going to be one. Tomorrow you show them police officers, they want to go into law. A doctor, they want to be a doctor. But by 8th grade, they kind of have to decide where they want to go, because based on that, that's how we put the clusters at the high school and the classes they're going to get. But anytime they can change at any given time.
And I know that we had discussed several other products throughout the years, some that we've changed, some that we've kept. Naviance was the one that we had that had not been used. We had purchased it, and it was costly, but it wasn't being used effectively across the district. So we were looking for something that could be used and be a little more efficient. I know by using this product, it's also a cut in cost compared to Naviance. I believe, if I can say the numbers, it's fine, and I will. I believe Naviance was about 60, and the combined K through 12 for this product's about 47. So, and this is something that was not picked. I don't know how that other one was picked or who picked the other one, but this was chosen by a committee of people that are going to be rolling this thing out for a lesser price.
Yes, sir. Well, I want to commend you for that, Mr. Guerra, and the committee that went ahead and evaluated this product. At the end of the day, they're the ones going to be, they're representing our teachers, and and so on and so forth. So I really commend you guys for that, because it's very obvious it wasn't a common practice prior, but I really appreciate you guys going out and doing that. I got a quick question for you, Mr. Guerra. As far as what we're utilizing now and are transitioning into this new product, how long would that take, or the type of support that our staff's going to have? Is it complicated, not complicated?
Well, we talked to them and they said they could get us out. One, we need to get it out by December, because in December, the 8th graders are going to have to take an interest inventory to pick a pathway. 8th grade, they take the college class that we have in 8th grade, and by that time, it's only half a year, so by then, they got to decide what they want to do. The high school counselors will come over and pick their classes and stuff, so we got to roll it out pretty fast.
Rolando, do
yes.
you want me to just speak to a bit of our rollout process really quickly?
If you don't mind.
Absolutely. So when we roll out Zello, we do it in 3 parts. The first one is getting your students and your educators their logins, and that typically takes about 2 weeks, and that's where our integration with Skyward is key. So like I said, within a matter of a couple of weeks, we can have full access to all of your students and your educators. And we actually use single sign-on for that. So it really does simplify it. So I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with single sign-on, but essentially, and I heard you speaking about one-to-one a little bit earlier in the meeting, but essentially the moment a student or an educator logs onto any device within the district, they're automatically also logged in to their individual unique Zello profile. So that's 2 weeks. The second part of that process is then bringing in all of your courses within our program. So again, that's about a 2 to 4 week process, mostly because we do work with the counselors at the high schools just to make sure that we fully reflected exactly what is offered, any special notes that they want to include and so forth. And then the third one is making that available to your students and then bringing back their course selections back into Skyward. So a lot of this actually becomes automated within Skyward to be running in the background, so that we can actually have updates for you on a nightly basis. So in total, you really are just looking at 2 weeks to have everything up and running for your students to be making the most of the program immediately.
Now, embedded in the cost, you see there is trainings that we have. So they bring somebody down here, they train us as a group, and we have somebody that gets trained overall to answer questions as well. So when you're asking, if we're just gonna throw it at them, no. We're gonna guide all the teachers through this, as well as the parents. That's something that we're looking at doing as well. We want the parents to be engaged and also be involved in this transition.
It's very important, sir, yeah, as far as their, being able to, to access their kids and how their progression through the school year is extremely important, and that could be a good tool, or marketing tool that we can use out there as well.
Yeah.
They can always keep an eye on their kids and their curriculum and as far as from attendance all the way to grades and so on and so forth. So I think it's an excellent product, and I want to commend the presenter, did a great job, and you too, Mr. Guerra. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item 4, a review and discussion of pre-K paid ASP for the 2018-2019 school year.
Yes, ma'am. I know that we had discussed this the last board meeting, that we were going to send out a survey, which we did send out last week, and was to offer the community, the kids in pre-K, an after-school program, whatever we want to call it, puppy pound, or it was whatever it was going to be called. But we were given the opportunities, and we sent home surveys to the parents. There were 700 surveys sent home, and of those 700 surveys, the ones that were returned, which only 17% were returned, 124 were returned, there were only 2 out of the 725 surveys that were sent out that said they would be interested in this program. So I am recommending that we do not look or move forward with that based off the surveys that were returned and the interest or lack thereof.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okey-dokey. Agenda item, no agenda. I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Madrigal,
there's no agenda. Sorry.
as far as the survey is concerned, you said you sent 700, and how many came back?
Out of the 700, 124 were returned. Mr. Rosas?
Was there any effort to have the 700 come back regardless?
Yes, sir. I believe we handed them out last Monday, and they were given until Friday to turn them in.
Okay. No, my thing is that a lot of times they take them home and then they just don't even show it up to the parents.
And I believe that Cassie had sent more than, so there were extra copies.
Okay.
And not only were they, and I specifically asked for, so it'd be easy to identify them when they brought them back.
Okay.
They were on a colored sheet of paper, so it wasn't just a regular white sheet of paper. So if the child were to bring it back, it wasn't going to get lost in the shuffle there in the office. So we give them opportunities. I believe that the parents were called and papers were sent home.
Okay, thank you.
Ready. Item 5, review, discussion of memorandum of understanding between San Benito CISD and Behavioral Health Solutions of South Texas for the 2018-2019 school year. Sir?
Good evening, committee members.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. We can hold off on the PowerPoint. If it's needed, we can go ahead and look at it. There's a short, maybe 9-slide PowerPoint on the actual curriculum that behavioral health solutions would use with our kids. But just to kind of give you a little bit of information, they've been around since 1991. Their mission is basically to provide a multi-level approach to reduce substance abuse and related coexisting conditions in our community, encourage healthy lifestyles related to at-risk public health behaviors, and to promote stronger families. So I've included little information on who they are in your packets. I've also included some information on the positive action curriculum that they want to use to let you all know that we have a memorandum of understanding with Behavioral Health Solutions of South Texas and the San Benito CISD for your consideration. In speaking to the people from Behavioral Health Solutions, they have been around providing services to our students over the years that they've been around. They weren't able to tell me exactly how many. They were here last year. They worked with our kids at Riverside Middle School, at Dr. Garza, and at Miller Jordan. They've also in the past, from what I understand after speaking with them, have provided services at the high school and also at Berta Cavazza. So this is at no cost to the district. It is through a grant through the Health and Human Services Department. So I asked about the curriculum. The curriculum is a state curriculum, so it's not something they put together. So it is research-based and evidence-based, and so it's up for your consideration. They'd like to continue their services this school year. If y'all have any other questions, you want to look at the curriculum, what have you, as I said, I do have a PowerPoint ready to go, but we can dispense with that. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer. A representative from the program was not able to be here this evening, but they will make themselves available at the board meeting, so if you choose to make this an agenda item.
I got a question, sir.
Yes, sir.
How many of these youth prevention programs do we have in our district right now?
That specifically target alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, to my knowledge, none.
Because I remember, a few months back, there was another group that came,
Yes, sir.
same situation, same behavioral,
Well, it was actually in Nueva Luz Foundation.
Okay,
And
what-
what they do is they're funded to provide post-traumatic services to our students.
okay. So there's no overlapping,
Absolutely not.
okay.
And part of the agreement is that they would be the ones to provide these type of services. However, just like any other MOU, it can be canceled, I guess, for lack of a better word, within, I believe, 30 days from either party.
Sir, as far as the challenges our kids face right now, how many, or what other options are out there for our kids through this grant?
Well, actually, through the grant is very specific as to what they can do. They do serve students in a tier basis. For example, they do provide presentations, 30 minutes in length, basically to everyone. And then if they have referrals from educators that there may be some children that are a little bit more at risk, they do provide one-on-one counseling services. And then when they have students at another tier that maybe have already gotten involved with some of the gateway drugs and that sort of thing, that they provide a little bit more intense services for them and their families. So we're really not able to kind of control exactly what they provide. It's based on the grant. But I can tell you that especially our secondary schools, unless we were to create our own, which I know that I've come from districts where we've had drug prevention, intervention, and postvention programs, which is a little bit more costly, this would be something that obviously is welcome. Any resource would be welcome.
So previously, we haven't had this, or we?
No, as I mentioned earlier, they've been around since '91. They weren't able to tell me how many years. The lady that I spoke to, their CEO was not available. They have provided services for us, but I can tell you that it's been several years, and last year, they were in the schools that I indicated, which were Dr. Garza, Miller, and Riverside.
So they have been part of our district since '91?
Well, they've been in our district, but I can't say since '91 every year.
Okay.
But they started in '91, and they have been in our district over the years, but there was no one that could really tell me, once I started asking specific questions,
Right.
how many of those years.
Well, it would be nice to see, this type of grant money, if it's gonna be utilized for the critical prevention, it'll be interesting to see if we can get a report on how many kids are actually seeing.
Absolutely.
And the type of prevention they're actually providing. That'll be very useful to us.
Absolutely, and the same thing goes with like Nueva Luz, asking them
Yes, sir.
for quarterly information. Be happy to make that available to you all.
Please.
And the counselors, are they going to be working with them? Are they going to be involved also?
Yes, ma'am, that's a very good question. Yes, they are, because the referrals will come from administrators, maybe teachers to the counselors. The counselors will be kind of like the liaisons with these individuals. They will have prevention specialists or program specialists. And so the actual specialists will never recruit. If you take a look at the MOU, they will never be the ones recruiting the students, but they will be working off referrals that we get for these students that need some assistance.
Good.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Anything else?
No, we're good.
Okay, thank you all.
Agenda item?
Improvement plan for Miller Jordan Middle School and Gateway to Graduation for the 2018-2019 school year. Hello. Miss.
Hello,
How
good
you-
evening, board members. My name is Ms. Hernandez, I'm the principal over at Miller Jordan, and tonight I'm going to just go over a real quick overview of the targeted improvement plan that we are required to submit to the state. Now, because of our rating this past year, actually the past 2 years, we are required to submit this targeted improvement plan, and there are specific components that need to be included in that plan. The first component is a vision statement that I'm going to go over with you in just a minute. We also need to identify 3 problem areas, which I will also go over with you. We need to go over the root cause analysis. Basically, it's the reason why we're having these problems. And then the final step of the targeted improvement plan is to identify goals and strategies that we're going to utilize to help target those problem areas. So the first thing that I'm going to go over with you is our vision statement. I don't know, can you hear me? Is it okay? Is our vision statement. So this was developed in conjunction with our PSP, Ms. Minnie Martinez, and she is here with us today along with our campus leadership team. And our vision statement for this school year is, at Miller Jordan Middle School, stakeholders collaborate to provide a high-quality, student-centered learning environment, enabling students to become post-secondary ready. So that is the vision for what we want to see at our campus. Now, the accountability summary that we have for the past 2 years, it is improvement required. In Domain 1, under student achievement, we did receive improvement required. Domain 2, student progress, we did meet the standard. However, in Domain 3, under closing the gap, we also received improvement required with an overall rating for the second year of improvement required. So because we received this rating, there are specific requirements, like I said, that the state mandates for us to submit to them as a second-year campus under this rating. So first, we do need to identify a campus intervention team, which does include the professional service provider, Ms. Minnie Martinez, who I spoke to you about earlier, and our campus leadership team. We do need to identify, and basically it's most of our department heads that are involved in the campus leadership team. We do need to complete trainings and interventions. We do have to conduct a public meeting to gather input, which we did at our parent Meet the Teacher Night on September 13th. So we've already done that. We need to develop a target improvement plan, and then we do need to present it to the board. And with approval, then we do need to submit to the state and submit progress reports along with mid-year funding reports. So the first problem statement that we have here is that 48% of all student groups did not meet approaches grade level in 8th grade science, and 58% of students did not meet approaches grade level in the 8th grade social studies. So that is our first problem statement. The root cause, the campus does not adhere to introducing, implementing, and monitoring the use of aligned curriculum, pacing guides, assessments, and resources used for classroom instruction in science and social studies. So our goal for this year is to improve those scores. We do plan on improving the scores to a 65% of the students approaching grade level in science and 60% in social studies. Now, the problem statement, the strategies that we have in place to target that problem statement is that teachers will follow with fidelity the TEKS resources and curriculum guides. PLCs will be restructured so that teachers collaborate to review data, curriculum and pacing documents, and plan appropriate lessons. Benchmarks and mini-marks will also be utilized, and the results will be used to inform instruction. Intervention activities will be implemented to target specific student populations during extended day and extended weeks, and an academic advisory period will be implemented, and students will be regrouped to accommodate those interventions. So these are the strategies that we're planning, and that we're getting ready to target that first problem statement. The second of the three statements is 43% of all student groups did not meet approaches grade level in the 7th grade writing STAR exam. And the root cause is there was a lack of emphasis by administration to ensure the training on the writing process and the appropriate use of writing resources, that they did not have these resources. They were not provided to the ELAR teachers. And our goal for the end of the year is to improve those scores to the 67% at approaches grade level. Now, under the problem statement to the strategy that we have in place, the administration will support a vertical alignment process that the campus will conduct internally to align the writing structures across all 3 grade levels. The district will provide direction and training on the writing process. ELAR teachers, the ELAR class is now going to be blocked for 90-minute periods in order to better support the writing process. The AA period is going to be implemented during the school day to provide additional opportunities for interventions for the students. Teachers will collaborate during PLC time more effectively to ensure that the work is focused and deliberate, and we will monitor the strategies and provide feedback to the teachers to assure that they are reflecting on their work. And the final problem statement that we have here is that 40% of all students did not meet approaches grade level in all subjects. And the root cause is that services, strategies, and interventions for struggling students have not been specific, focused, and applied with fidelity throughout the campus. So our goal is to, of course, improve that to 70% of our students meeting approaches grade level by the end of the school year on this 2019 STAR exam. And our problem statement strategy that we are using to target this is we're going to utilize that AA period. It has been added to the master schedule to provide that additional opportunity for targeted student intervention, and the campus will also implement pull-out programs during the school day to target those specific skills, and teachers will research and compile instructional materials to be used during the instructional interventions. So essentially, those are the 3 main areas that we plan on targeting this school year, and this is just a real quick overview of what we're planning to submit to the state, of course, with board approval. Are there any questions?
Just want to make one comment, Ms.
Yes,
Ramirez. I've known you for many years, and I know you did a fantastic job at Berta Cavazza, and I have a lot of confidence that you're going to do great this year. I can see a lot of good coming from
We're
the school.
looking forward to it.
Oh,
We're working really hard.
and you probably
with
have a bunch
teachers.
of real good people working with you,
We sure
together
do.
with, all the teachers, administration, everyone. And it's starting from the janitor to the administration, everybody has to help.
Absolutely, ma'am, and we really appreciate your support in trying to
Sure.
get the campus where it needs to be.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Alfredo Perez. I am the principal at Gateway Academy. And like Miller Jordan, Gateway, this is our first year as an IR status campus. So we are required to present to the board also. Okay, so our vision at Gateway to Graduation Academy, all stakeholders communicate and collaborate to promote and prepare students for post-secondary success through high-quality instruction and student-centered learning. Right off the bat, for the 3 domains that we get looked at, Gateway Academy only qualifies under Domain 1 and Domain 3. School progress is not rated because we are a credit recovery campus. We are an alternative campus, so we don't show student growth. A lot of our students are already taking the test multiple times. So we only get rated in Domain 1, which we met standard for student achievement. Where we fell short was closing the gaps, was in Domain 3. So we had to also do an analysis, a campus analysis, and see what we fell short on. So our first problem statement was that Gateway to Graduation Academy met 0 out of 6 CCMR targets in Domain 3. So the CCMR are our college, career, military ready indicators. So we have 10 of those that every high school student in the state of Texas has to hit at least one of them. Well, we didn't meet any out of the 6 for CCMR. So our root cause is that Gateway did not adequately support students to enter college, career, and military upon graduation. We did very good with graduation rates, we did very good on the testing, but when it came for the indicators, we just fell short. So our goal is this year, Gateway to Graduation will meet 3 out of the 6 ECMR targets for Domain 3, and that would help us meet. Now, we do have to also consider that we are looking at, last year's rating was based on students that graduated 2 years ago. So at the end of this year, we will be rated on the students from last year. So we are also working on trying to clean up a lot of things that weren't documented. Those students that did pass TSI, we've also called a lot of the graduates from last year, and several of them did go to the military, so that's one of the indicators. Some of them did enroll into TSTC, so if we can document that they did that, it'll help us at the end of this year. But moving forward, we're going to be concentrating on CCMR a little different. Problem statement number 1, it's just that we're cleaning up last year's codes, and then this year we're offering a lot more in terms of students getting industry-based certifications. I know working with Mr. Guerra, we now have 5 of our Gateway students attending the high school every day to get one of the welding certifications. We have a couple of students that are doing the cosmetology. We will be starting to offer TSI testing there at Gateway. And along with being a year 1, it's going to come with a grant that we can apply for. It'll give us about $125,000, and we're going to concentrate on giving tutorials. Right now, we're actually doing tutorials for other welding students after school, and today we met with a gentleman that's going to be certifying our students in welding, so that's going to help. There's a couple of other ideas that we have that we'll be using the money for. Problem statement number 2, academic achievement for all students on the 2018 STAR. Reading and math. So we get looked at for the amount of students that hit approaches in Domain 1. Well, Domain 3 looks at students that did meet the approaches, but also met the meets and masters. Well, our scores were a little low in that area. So what we're going to be concentrating on also is getting a couple of tutors to come in and work with the kids individually and try to get those meets and master scores a little higher. If we meet either one of the goals, we would be fine in Domain 3 for the incoming year. We're going to be doing the tutoring. We have the counseling services there, and we're really just trying to open it up more to work with the high school so we can get these kids the same opportunities that our high school kids are getting. Questions, concerns?
How many years were you at Miller?
2.
2 years.
2 years.
Okay,
Yes.
just, wondering when, we expect those kids not to fall into the cracks, the ones that are in, right now in Gateway, so we need to really work hard with them.
Right now, we have
Please.
about 85 students enrolled at Gateway. And as they graduate and they leave us, we are actually bringing in more high school students that we feel might not be able to graduate on time. So we're trying to target them.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're actually targeting them a little earlier with some of the freshmen that are the repeating freshmen that, traditionally we would only look at students that were juniors and seniors getting ready to graduate, but now we're looking at across the board all of the kids that we need to help out before they fall into the cracks of not being able to graduate.
Well, I went by to look at the kids. I went and visited, and there was learning taking place. They're very well behaved.
And they love the facility now.
Oh,
It's
it was beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yes.
Real nice. My compliments to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Madrigal, can you elaborate real quick on the lagging of all these, of like, for example, the STAR tests in different areas? Just to make sure that everybody's on the same page as far as what they're getting, what they're facing, their challenges, but where exactly it started from? Where, I guess my question is, these results, these test scores, or these, these domains that we're talking about, is it different for different areas? Or it's all lagging 1 year, or is it 2 years of test taking scores that we're having to?
This right here, we're looking at last year's, here locally, we're looking at last year's scores. So that's why I know if you look at Ms. Fernandez's and Mr. Perez's plan, it's going to tie into the next item up. But it's all tied back, I believe, into some of the things that were lacking maybe in years past. Not that it wasn't being done right, but I think we were doing a lot of different things fairly well at different campuses as opposed to having a focused or structured way about doing business. I know they talked about alignment, they talked about common formative assessments, and they talked about students' success. I think that if we have that alignment across the campuses and across the district, that'll lead to student success. We have a plan as to what it is we're trying to address and how we're going to go about addressing it, so that if a child, for example, were to move from, let's say, Miller, or from the high school to Gateway, or from Miller to even PRC, or wherever it may be, or from Miller to BC, there's a similarity and there's not big gaps, or they're not teaching this thing over here at this campus and this at this campus, and skipping some of the student expectations that are supposed to be taught and are going to be tested in the spring.
But I think what I'm understanding is there's a lot more consistency going on, from the elementary through the middle school and through the high school. It's the same type of language being spoken compared to when we first came on. But what I want to do is I want to, really commend our leaders of our district, for sticking it out and coming up with plans to make sure our kids succeed at all levels, and willing to take the challenges of going to these difficult schools where they know that, the kids have challenges. But, one of the things, if sitting in this chair, which is our community chair, and looking out at our leaders, it really brings a lot of pride. Our staff have a lot of pride, and I want to really commend each and every one of you for sticking it out and coming up with great solutions, because we do have a wonderful organization, and we have a wonderful community here that we need to support. Thank you all very much.
And I'd like to add to that, Mr. Lopez, Orlando, that the ideas are brought up here at this level, but the people actually doing the work and the follow-through are from the directors to the principals to the teachers. They're the ones actually, we come up with the ideas and they come up with a way on how to fix the problem. All we do is provide them the resources. So that credit is really directed towards those people. But thank you, and we're going to try to get it right.
Mr. Morigara, as I heard Ms. Fernandez speak, what I'd like to see a chart on the 6th grade level, Ms. Fernandez, where the kids come from. Not by name, by number or anything. It's like a chart where the school they come. Then we can find out what school necessarily needs more help, elementary-wise. And we can do that at the 9th grade level also, just to target the kids that where they're coming from. And maybe some schools are doing a lot better than the other. We can learn from that one and transfer it to the other elementary school. And we can do a chart in the 6th grader for this year, if it's possible.
And I don't get to talk that much, but I like to talk every now and then. So I'm going to talk about what some of the good things we're doing here.
Okay.
You talked about us getting together and some of the good things we're doing. I know we gave our first round of assessments, and that's the next topic, and I'm still talking about that, even though we haven't discussed it yet. But in addressing sharing some of the good things that we're doing, I know this Wednesday and Thursday, the secondary campuses are going to meet in the tested areas as the group of teachers by the content area. So it's going to be all the English teachers together. I've asked that no principals be around. The instructional coaches are going to lead those discussions so they can go over the assessment that was just given, and they're going to come up with and they're going to lead the discussions as to what worked for you, what didn't work for you, how did it work for you. The reason I asked for no principal to be there is so they could really have those conversations that teachers have amongst teachers. And we're going to do that every Wednesday and Thursday for secondary, after the week after the assessment. And at the elementary level, they're going to be doing it on Saturdays. And once again, it's going to be teacher-led and teacher-driven. There will not be an administrator, so that they don't feel like they're being pressured on having to say words, but they can actually get the work done. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Very interesting. Item number 7, a review and discussion of Common Formative Assessment, CFA 1, for the 2018-2019 school year. Thank you.
Good evening. Ms. Libby Flores is passing out a copy of the preliminary results for our first round of CFAs. The first page will be for our EOC assessments, and then the following will be the middle school and then the elementary. So for our high school, we had a 3-week assessment. They are on a 9-week schedule rather than 6 weeks because I have the block, accelerated block. So those were the results for the first 3 weeks assessments. I'm not going to go over the actual numbers of the results since you do have them in front of you, but I want to explain what the different elements of the tables mean. So when you look at the tables, the colored columns that say approaches, meets, and masters, those are the 3 levels of performance that TEA evaluates us on. So I know that in the previous presentations, they talked about student performance and domain 1. Domain 1 is an average of those 3 levels of performance. So TEA will take what percentage of the students are at the approaches grade level, what percentage of the students are at the meets grade level, and then what percentage of the students are performing at the master's grade level, and they take an average of those 3 for our overall domain 1 score. And so we're trying to create these reports that are reflective of what the TEA's expectation is of our campuses at the end of the year when they take those STARS assessment. We had our first group of data meetings in September, and we went over the different elements. Each campus had administration present as well as teachers from the core areas, so that we could go over the different domains and they could really ask the questions that they needed to ask in a smaller group setting. And I think it was really successful. So we tried to model it on some of the conversations that we had during those meetings. And then the last 3 columns that you see on the table that say regress or did not meet, maintain, or grow, those, we're looking at the students' performance from their prior year STAR assessment. So where were they at on that 2018 STAR assessment, and making sure that they're moving up the levels. TEA is really looking at our students increasing, going from, if they were at approaches grade level, let's try and get them to meets grade level the next year. If they were at meets grade level, let's get them to the master's grade level, or keeping them in that master's grade level if they were already in that realm. So that way the teachers and the administrators have that information at their fingertips for the CFAs to guide their instruction and their practices. So we did it like a little report card, so you'll have the overall school district, and then you'll have the table for each of the campuses.
And just to, I believe that we cannot compare to last year's first round assessment because
There was not a common formative assessment available to the campuses last year for the fall. So there's no way for us to compare.
And the CFAs were, I know last year we had a group of what were called master teachers, and I don't know, anyway, these CFAs were put together by our instructional coaches, and they are aligned both with readiness and supporting standards to the test, the state test, and it goes over what is reflected in the year at a glance at the ag that drives instruction, or tells us where you're supposed to be or what you should have covered during that 6 weeks period. And that's how the test was made.
Any questions on the reports? And so we will be preparing these after every CFA so that the campuses have that available, and we will be sharing it with them so that they can compare. If they see strengths somewhere else, so they can talk to some of their peers and get some ideas on what they can do in their classrooms to increase their performance.
Ms. Ortiz, so each campus has this, correct?
I'm sending that out to them. We
Okay.
just finalized it, so they should be receiving it.
So each principal pretty much knows, I'm assuming, right, where their strengths and weaknesses are in their
Yes.
respective
On their own
campus?
campus, yes. They have access right now through our online system, which is Eduphoria. They have access to their campus information as well as the district-wide, but they haven't seen the information from their peers. So we will be sending that to them so that they have access as well.
Awesome. So then they'll be able to give you guys feedback as far as saying that, compared to where we were last year, compared to where the communication and, the whole, educational process that we have implemented now, where we're at, and if it's getting better or not, or so on and so forth, right?
And I can share that in the last couple of meetings that I've had, we already started our October data meetings with the core team. And some of the feedback that I've received is that even in the areas that the percentages don't look like they're really great, in some of the areas, they know that they're going to get there. It's like they can see that they're getting the support that they need, and that this information will help guide them to make sure that by the time they take the actual assessments, that they'll be ready and better prepared.
Great. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
So for the class size waiver, the state of Texas has a requirement that if we have any classrooms in grades K through 4 that are over the 22-to-1 ratio, we do have to submit a waiver request to the state. And we've highlighted on last week's enrollment report which classrooms were over the 22-to-1 ratio. So there are several reasons that we can submit for the request for a class size waiver. Those would include, in our case, financial hardship in having to employ an additional teacher because there's one extra student. And you'll notice that in most cases it is only over by one student. So instead of having the 22, it's 23. In one of the campuses, we do have a situation of limited space. So they have run out of space for an additional classroom. So even if we were able to get an additional teacher, there is not a classroom to be able to place that teacher in. So those are the two scenarios that we see on our list. So right now we're at 21 classrooms. We will look at the enrollment at the end of this week, which is the end of the first 6 weeks. And then from there, if the board approves the request of the waiver, we would submit to TEA the classrooms that we see that are over that 22-to-1.
So, Mr. I don't know if it's a fair question to ask you, or should I direct it to Mr. Madrigal, but we have seen an increase in enrollment, correct?
That is correct.
Do we know exactly where we're at right now with that number?
Today, with the number of growth,
Yes, sir.
I believe that last year our top number was about 10. On the folder that we handed out for the bond, it was 10,222 or 10,220. So we're approximately 300 kids over where we were last year,
Thank you.
based off the.
Thank you.
Committee concerns?
Yes, ma'am. I have one item that was not put on the agenda, and I'd like to ask you to please hear it. It has to do with the bilingual department and a program they'd like to purchase, if possible.
Good evening, members of the
evening.
board. I'll be brief. I believe that we provided you with a brief handout on the School Pace. School Pace is a digital tool that we use to keep track of the progress for leveled reader kits that we've been purchasing for the bilingual teachers these past 2 years. So they complement each other. And this is just one portion of it, and I'm just seeking the approval of the renewal for the web-based program.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, I have another concern, a curriculum concern. Mr. Madrigal, can you elaborate, just to make sure that we're all on the same page here once again, can you just elaborate on the MOU with A&I? Did that ever get resolved? Because there was some feedback there, some concerns that they didn't follow through with their MOU. Can you please elaborate on that? Thank you.
Yes, sir. We met with representatives from Texas A&M Kingsville approximately 2 weeks ago there at VMA. The concern was that in the spring of last year, the spring and summer, we had agreed upon some classes that were going to be offered in the fall and how many kids we were going to offer them to. It was their responsibility. There was a clause, however, but it was their responsibility to hire instructors for the Early College Academy, which is something we're trying to grow in the years to come. They were unable to hire all the professors necessary, instructors necessary, and we had to use one of our high school teachers to teach one of those classes so that the kids wouldn't, that were signed up for that ECA, the Early College Academy, so they can still continue to have course offerings that we said they were going to have. So we had to use one of our own here locally. Now, we did meet with them, and I know I just sent an email today. They talked about the class that fell through was Spanish, and they had discussed that it was hard to find an instructor. I told them that's not my concern or problem. Y'all said you were gonna do it, so do it. But in the years to come, we're not gonna offer that class. Although on that email today, it was on there, so we're going back and forth. We're talking about the spring semester classes right now.
Okay, so you're not gonna offer that class because A&I can accommodate you, or you're not gonna offer that class because you just don't wanna offer it?
Yes.
Dual enrollment? We shouldn't,
No,
Mr. Madrigal,
no.
we should not, in my opinion, okay? So, let me go back. So this MOU was not followed through. So what's our next plan? Because the whole purpose of going with this whole process, because it was the most advantageous route to go, first of all. Second of all was because it was not gonna interrupt the amount of students that were gonna be impacted by the teachers going and teaching these classes, because it was overloading a couple of classes depending on what class that was. So now we're back into the situation where, you know, they don't follow through with their MOU. So what is our plan, or what is our process when they don't follow through with MOU?
Right now, we still have MOUs with other universities, neighboring universities. We could always teach our classes. If necessary, that could always be a fallback, in that our teachers can teach classes here, dual enrollment classes. We just have to get them approved through the appropriate university. Currently, I'm talking about for the kids at the early college in particular, the university has assured us that these classes will take place. I've asked them to take off Spanish because we know that's not going to happen. It didn't happen the first semester, so it's probably not going to happen the second semester. But we do have plans in place, and if the first time, shame on you, the second time, shame on me. So if they do this again, we're giving them the opportunity to make right, and I think they will. But if not, we have papers in place to go in a different direction. And at the end of the day, we're going to do what's right for the kids of San Benito first.
Yes, so well, I suggest that moving forward, since they did break this MOU and they have a long-lasting relationship with the school district, it's very disappointing that they do that. So they broke an MOU, so I suggest here in the near future, we start looking out and going with a different university, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
Thank
We'll
you.
explore those options and have something for you by the next committee meeting. Yes, sir.